Boi. Come. Bashalan. In the peace. Atele. Putting crown on. Byler. Her husband. Boi Kailar. Come bride. This is a beautiful Hebrew wedding song, as if the angels in heaven are calling for the bride who has been waiting for 6,000 years to stand up bravely and put on the crown of glory for the coming King of Heaven.
大家好，欢迎来到以诺谈天节目。今天我们讲亚伯拉罕的故事第10部分。滔天罪恶，达天庭，天降大火，灭那地。伯兰祷告，罗德家，末日灭绝，刘启示。前面我们说了，上帝在创造天地之先就呼唤亚伯兰2次，伯兰，伯兰。伯兰出生见天象，宁录王要杀他，结果仆人的儿子代替了亚伯兰，神救了他。亚伯兰苦寻上帝，宁录建塔办天庭。亚伯兰披神像，宁录把亚伯兰与哥哥哈兰投入火炉，最终亚伯兰3日3夜毫发未损，哈兰死在火炉中。宁录再次要杀亚伯兰，最终他们全家逃离，神第一次呼召亚伯兰进迦南地。神第二次呼召亚伯兰进迦南地，遇见荒年，撒来险遭不测。罗德与亚伯兰分开，差点被掳去，亚伯兰带318家丁救罗德。神与亚伯兰立约，祝福四方，撒来等不及，夏甲先得子。99岁亚伯兰割礼改名，准备迎接以撒的到来，在准备牛犊的过程中，发现了那埋葬亚当夏娃的洞。
Hello everyone, welcome to Enoch Talk Show. Today we begin the story of Abraham, part 10. The monstrous sins in Sodom had reached the heavens, and the heavens had poured down fires to destroy the whole land of these cities. Abram prayed for the house of Lot, and left a revelation for the doomsday extinction. Abram circumcised at 99 years old. God made covenant with Abram and changed Sarai's name to prepare to give birth of a son. Painful Abram sat under oak trees welcome visitors, angels visited, and a calf run away to bring great blessing. In the previous sections we talked before the creation of the heaven and the earth. God called Abram twice, Burim and Burim. Abram was born, and King Nimrod wanted to kill him, but his servant's son took Abram's place. God saved him. Abram searched so hard for the way of back to heaven. Nimrod built a tower to rebel against heaven. In anger, Abram burned idols of false gods and smashed the idols of Nimrod. Abram was thrown in the furnace for 3 days and 3 nights. But he walked out without damage even a single hair. Nimrod had a nightmare and wanted to kill Abram. And Abram entered the land of Canaan in his early 50s. God called Abram for the second time into the land of Canaan. In the famine years, beauty of Sarai almost landed her a disaster. Lot and Abram separated and were almost captured. Abram brought 318 servants to rescue Lot. The covenant made in wilderness will bless the universe. Sarai was anxious to get a son through Hagar. Circumcised at 99 years old, God made covenant with Abram and changed their names to prepare to give birth of a son. Abram sat under oak trees with circumcision pain to welcome travelers, angels visited them and a calf run away to bring great blessing.
下面我们来看这部分内容，先看经文描述。3人就从那里起行，向索多玛观看，亚伯拉罕也与他们同行，要送他们一程。 耶和华说：我所要做的事，岂可瞒着亚伯拉罕呢？亚伯拉罕必要成为强大的国，地上的万国都必因他得福。我眷顾他，为要叫他吩咐他的众子和他的眷属遵守我的道，秉公行义，使我所应许亚伯拉罕的话都成就了。耶和华说：所多玛和俄摩拉的罪恶甚重，声闻于我。我现在要下去查看他们所行的，果然尽像那达到我耳中的声音一样吗？若是不然，我也必知道。二人转身离开那里，向所多玛去，但亚伯拉罕仍旧站在耶和华面前。亚伯拉罕近前来说：无论善恶，你都要剿灭吗？假若那城里有50个义人，你还剿灭那地方吗？不为城里这50个义人饶恕其中的人吗？将义人与恶人同杀，将义人与恶人一样看待，这段不是你所行的。审判全地的主岂不行公义吗？耶和华说：我若在所多玛城里见有50个义人，我就为他们的缘故饶恕那地方的众人。亚伯拉罕说：我虽然是灰尘，还敢对主说话。假若这50个义人短了5个，你就因为短了5个毁灭全城吗？他说：我在那里若见有45个，也不毁灭那城。亚伯拉罕又对他说：假若在那里见有40个怎么样呢？他说：为这40个的缘故，我也不做这事。亚伯拉罕说：求主不要动怒，容我说，假若在那里见有30个怎么样呢？他说：我在那里若见有30个，我也不做这事。亚伯拉罕说：我还敢对主说话，假若在那里见有20个怎么样呢？他说：为这20个的缘故，我也不毁灭那城。亚伯拉罕说：求主不要动怒，我再说这一次，假若在那里见有10个呢？他说：为这10个的缘故，我也不毁灭那城。耶和华与亚伯拉罕说完了话就走了，亚伯拉罕也回到自己的地方去了。创世纪18章16至33节和合本。那2个天使晚上到了所多玛，罗德正坐在所多玛城门口，看见他们，就起来迎接，脸伏于地下拜，说：我主啊，请你们到仆人家里洗洗脚，住一夜，清早起来再走。他们说：不，我们要在街上过夜。罗德切切地请他们，他们这才进去到他屋里。罗德为他们预备筵席，烤无酵饼，他们就吃了。他们还没有躺下，所多玛城里各处的人，连老带少，都来围住那房子，呼叫罗德说：今日晚上到你这里来的人在哪里呢？把他们带出来，任我们所为。罗德出来，把门关上，到众人那里，说：众弟兄，请你们不要做这恶事。我有2个女儿，还是处女，容我领出来，任凭你们的心愿而行。只是这2个人既然到我舍下，不要向他们做什么。众人说：退去吧。又说：这个人来寄居，还想要做官啊？现在我们要害你，比害他们更甚。众人就向前拥挤罗德，要攻破房门。只是那2人伸出手来，将罗德拉进屋去，把门关上，并且使门外的人，无论老少，眼都昏迷。他们摸来摸去，总寻不着房门。2人对罗德说：你这里还有什么人吗？无论是女婿是儿女，和这城中一切属你的人，你都要将他们从这地方带出去。我们要毁灭这地方，因为城内罪恶的声音在耶和华面前甚大，耶和华差我们来，要毁灭这地方。罗德就出去，告诉娶了或意将要娶他女儿的女婿们说：你们起来离开这地方，因为耶和华要毁灭这城。他女婿们却以为他说的是戏言。天明了，天使催逼罗德说：起来， 带着你的妻子和你在这里的2个女儿出去，免得你因这城里的罪恶同被剿灭。但罗德迟延不走。2人因为耶和华连续罗德，就拉着他的手和他妻子的手，并他2个女儿的手，把他们领出来，安置在城外。领他们出来以后，就说：逃命吧，不可回头看，也不可在平原站住，要往山上逃跑，免得你被剿灭。罗德对他们说：我主啊，不要如此，你仆人已经在你眼前蒙恩，你又向我显出莫大的慈爱，救我的性命。我不能逃到山上去，恐怕这灾祸临到我，我便死了。看哪，这座城又小又近，容易逃到，这不是一个小的吗？求你容我逃到那里，我的性命就得存活。天使对他说：这是我也应允你，我不轻负你所说的这城。你要速速地逃到那城，因为你还没有到那里，我不能做什么。因此那城名叫索尔，就是小的意思。罗德到了索尔，日头已经出来了。当时耶和华将硫磺与火从天上耶和华那里降于所多玛和俄摩拉，把那些城和全平原，并城里所有的居民，连地上生长的都毁灭了。罗德的妻子在后边回头一看，就变成了一根岩柱。亚伯拉罕清早起来，到了他从前站在耶和华面前的地方，向所多玛和俄摩拉与平原的全地观看，不料那地方烟气上腾，如同烧窑一般。当神毁灭平原诸城的时候，他纪念亚伯拉罕，正在倾覆罗的所住之城的时候，就打发罗的从倾覆之中出来。罗德因为怕住在索尔，就同他2个女儿从索尔上去，住在山里。他和2个女儿住在一个洞里。大女儿对小女儿说：我们的父亲老了，地上又无人按着世上的常规进到我们这里来，我们可以叫父亲喝酒，与他同寝，这样我们好从他存留后裔。于是那夜他们叫父亲喝酒，大女儿就进去和他父亲同寝。他几时躺下，几时起来，父亲都不知道。第2天，大女儿对小女儿说：我昨夜与父亲同寝，今夜我们再叫他喝酒，你可以进去与他同寝，这样我们好从父亲存留后裔。于是那夜他们又叫父亲喝酒，小女儿起来与他父亲同寝。他几时躺下，几时起来，父亲都不知道。这样罗德的2个女儿都从他父亲怀了孕。大女儿生了儿子，给他起名叫摩押，就是现今摩押人的始祖。小女儿也生了儿子，给他起名叫便亚米，就是现今亚门人的始祖。创世纪19章1至38节和合本。
Now, let's look at this part. First look at the description of the scriptures. Then the men rose from there and looked toward Sodom, and Abraham went with them to send them on the way. And the Lord said, Shall I hide from Abraham what I am doing, since Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him? For I have known him, in order that he may command his children and his household after him, that they keep the way of the Lord, to do righteousness and justice, that the Lord may bring to Abraham what he has spoken to him. And the Lord said, Because the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grave, I will go down now and see whether they have done altogether according to the outcry against it that has come to me, and if not, I will know. Then the men turned away from there and went toward Sodom, but Abraham still stood before the Lord. And Abraham came near and said, Would you also destroy the righteous with the wicked? Suppose there were 50 righteous within the city, would you also destroy the place and not spare it for the 50 righteous that were in it? Far be it from you to do such a thing as this, to slay the righteous with the wicked, so that the righteous should be as the wicked, far be it from you. Shall not the judge of all the earth do right? So the Lord said, If I find in Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I will spare all the place for their sakes. Then Abraham answered and said, Indeed now, I who am but dust and ashes have taken it upon myself to speak to the Lord. Suppose there were 5 less than the 50 righteous, would you destroy all of the city for lack of 5? So he said, If I find there 45, I will not destroy it. And he spoke to him yet again and said, Suppose there should be 40 found there? So he said, I will not do it for the sake of 40. Then he said, Let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak, suppose 30 should be found there? So he said, I will not do it if I find 30 there. And he said, Indeed now, I have taken it upon myself to speak to the Lord, suppose 20 should be found there? So he said, I will not destroy it for the sake of 20. Then he said, Let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak but once more, suppose 10 should be found there? And he said, I will not destroy it for the sake of 10. So the Lord went his way as soon as he had finished speaking with Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. Genesis 18 verses 16 to 33 NKJV. Now the 2 angels came to Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gate of Sodom. When Lot saw them, he rose to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face toward the ground. And he said, Hear now, my lords, please turn into your servant's house and spend the night, and wash your feet, then you may rise early and go on your way. And they said, No, but we will spend the night in the open square. But he insisted strongly, so they turned into him and entered his house. Then he made them a feast, and baked unleavened bread, and they ate. Now before they lay down, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, both old and young, all the people from every quarter, surrounded the house. And they called to Lot and said to him, Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us that we may know them carnally. So Lot went out to them through the doorway, shut the door behind him, and said, Please, my brethren, do not do so wickedly. See now, I have 2 daughters who have not known a man. Please, let me bring them out to you, and you may do to them as you wish, only do nothing to these men, since this is the reason they have come under the shadow of my roof. And they said, Stand back. Then they said, This one came in to stay here, and he keeps acting as a judge. Now we will deal worse with you than with them. So they pressed hard against the man Lot, and came near to break down the door. But the men reached out their hands and pulled Lot into the house with them, and shut the door. And they struck the men who were at the doorway of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they became weary trying to find the door. Then the men said to Lot, Have you anyone else here? Son-in-law, your sons, your daughters, and whomever you have in the city, take them out of this place. For we will destroy this place, because the outcry against them has grown great before the face of the Lord, and the Lord has sent us to destroy it. So Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law, who had married his daughters, and said, Get up, get out of this place, for the Lord will destroy this city. But to his sons-in-law he seemed to be joking. When the morning dawned, the angels urged Lot to hurry, saying, Arise, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, lest you be consumed in the punishment of the city. And while he lingered, the men took hold of his hand, his wife's hand, and the hands of his 2 daughters, the Lord being merciful to him, and they brought him out and set him outside the city. So it came to pass, when they had brought them outside, that he said, Escape for your life. Do not look behind you nor stay anywhere in the plain. Escape to the mountains, lest you be destroyed. Then Lot said to them, Please, no, my lords. Indeed now, your servant has found favor in your sight, and you have increased your mercy which you have shown me by saving my life, but I cannot escape to the mountains, lest some evil overtake me and I die. See now, this city is near enough to flee to, and it is a little one. Please let me escape there. Is it not a little one? And my soul shall live. And he said to him, See, I have favored you concerning this thing also, in that I will not overthrow this city for which you have spoken. Hurry, escape there. For I cannot do anything until you arrive there. Therefore the name of the city was called Zor. The sun had risen upon the earth when Lot entered Zor. Then the Lord rained brimstone and fire on Sodom and Gomorrah, from the Lord out of the heavens. So he overthrew those cities, all the plain, all the inhabitants of the cities, and what grew on the ground. But his wife looked back behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. And Abraham went early in the morning to the place where he had stood before the Lord. Then he looked toward Sodom and Gomorrah, and toward all the land of the plain, and he saw, and behold, the smoke of the land which went up like the smoke of a furnace. And it came to pass, when God destroyed the cities of the plain, that God remembered Abraham, and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow, when he overthrew the cities in which Lot had dwelt. Then Lot went up out of Zor and dwelt in the mountains, and his 2 daughters were with him, for he was afraid to dwell in Zor. And he and his 2 daughters dwelt in a cave. Now the firstborn said to the younger, Our father is old, and there is no man on the earth to come into us as is the custom of all the earth. Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, that we may preserve the lineage of our father. So they made their father drink wine that night. And the firstborn went in and lay with her father, and he did not know when she lay down or when she arose. It happened on the next day that the firstborn said to the younger, Indeed I lay with my father last night, let us make him drink wine tonight also, and you go in and lie with him, that we may preserve the lineage of our father. Then they made their father drink wine that night also. And the younger arose and lay with him, and he did not know when she lay down or when she arose. Thus both the daughters of Lot were with child by their father. The firstborn bore a son and called his name Moab. He is the father of the Moabites to this day. And the younger, she also bore a son and called his name Ben-Ammi. He is the father of the people of Ammon to this day. Genesis 19 verses 1 to 38 NKJV。
我们再来读雅煞尔书。11那些日子，所多玛、俄摩拉并5个城的人的罪恶触动耶和华的怒气。他们在耶和华面前越发行可憎恶及藐视之事。那些日子，他们的罪恶在耶和华眼中极大。12在他们那地有一个非常大的山谷，距离约有半日的路程，谷中有花草环绕的水泉。13所多玛和俄摩拉城里所有的人，每年4次带着妻儿并家中的人去那谷，在那里他们击鼓跳舞欢乐。14在欢乐中，他们全都起身，搂着他们邻舍的妻子或是邻家的处女，与他们亲近。个人看到自己的妻子女儿在邻舍怀中，静默不语。15他们从早到晚如此，随后个人回到自己家中，每年如此4次。16若有一个外人来到他们的城中，想在那里卖掉他所买到的货财，这些城中的人，无论男女老少，会聚集起来抢夺他的财物，将他们分给个人一些，直到分尽主人所带来之物。 17若是货物的主人与他们争吵，说你们向我所行的是什么呢？他们会一个一个的到他面前，手拿所分得之物，嗤笑他，说我只从你那里拿了一点。他听见众人对他所说的，便起身带着忧愁和痛苦离开。他们都起来跟着他，在喧闹中将他赶出城。18有一人从以兰来，在街上从容地骑着他的驴驹，驴背上驮着一件彩色外衣，用一根线棚在驴身上。19傍晚日落时，这人在路上穿过索多玛的街道，他停下来，想夜晚在那里住下，可是没人领他进自己的屋。索多玛有一恶人，行恶狡诈，名叫赫达。20他举目观看，见客人在街上，上来对他说：“你从哪里来？要到哪里去？”21那人回答说：“我从希伯伦来，要去以兰，因我本属那里。我正赶路，太阳下山，无人请我进屋。其实我并不缺食物和水，我的驴也有粮草，我本无缺乏。”22赫达回答他说：“我会供应你所需的，只是你不可在街上过夜。”23赫达带他到他的家，卸了驴子的驼，带他们进屋。客人在赫达家里吃喝时，他也给驴子喂了粮草。24清晨，客人早起要赶路，赫达对他说：“请再吃点食物，加添心力再走吧。”那人听从了，他留下来，整日一起吃喝。那人起身要走。25赫达对他说：“看啊，天色暗下来了，你何不今夜留在此地，加添心力？”于是他强留他整夜在屋里。第二日，他早起要上路，赫达对他说：“请再吃点食物，加添心力再走吧。”于是第二日，他又与他一同吃喝。那人起身要继续赶路。26赫达对他说：“看啊，天色暗下来了，你何不今夜留在此地，加添心力，清晨早起上路？”27那人不愿再留，起身背上驴。赫达的妻子对她丈夫说：“看这人与我们吃喝2天，却什么也没留下。现在他要离开，使我们两手空空吗？”赫达对他说：“不要作声。”28那人背上驴要走，他向赫达要绳子和外衣系到驴背上。29赫达对他说：“你说的是什么？”那人对他说：“我主，请给我绳子和彩色的外衣，就是你藏在屋里为我保管的。”30赫达回答说：“这是对你的梦的讲解。你看到的绳，就是你的寿命将像绳一样延长。你所看到的彩衣，就是你将有一个葡萄园，在里面你会种上各样的果树。”31客人回答：“我主不然。我给你绳和彩衣时，我并未睡着。你从驴背上取下，为我摆在一边。”赫达说：“我已告诉你关于梦的讲解，这梦是好的，意思却是如此。32人会因我的解梦给我4两银子，你只需给我3两即可。”33那人因赫达的话而激动，放声大哭。他将赫达带到所多玛审判官希拉面前。34那人在审判官希拉面前陈明缘由，赫达却回答：“是非如此，乃是这样。”判官对客人说：“此人赫达所说属实。他因解梦解得好，在城中出了名。”35听到判官的话，那人大哭，说：“我主不然。那日我却是将绳和驴上的彩衣给了他，为要摆在他屋里。”于是两人在官前争闹，一人说这样，另一人说那样。36赫达对那人说：“给我4两银子，作为我解梦的价银。我不会向你多要，给我4顿饭钱，就是你在我家所吃的。”37那人对赫达说：“诚然，我会给你饭钱， 只是你把藏于你家里的绳和彩衣还给我。38赫达在判官面前回答那人：我岂没有告诉你梦的讲解吗？绳就是你的寿命将像绳一样延长，彩衣就是你将有一个葡萄园，在里面你会种上各样的果树。39，这是你梦的正确讲解。给我4两银子作为工价，我也不会向你多要。40，听了赫达的话，那人大哭，二人在判官面前争吵，判官便差人将他俩赶出去。41，他们从判官那里出来，一路吵闹。所多玛人听见，聚集上前，毁谤他，将他赶出城。42，那人骑上驴出发，心中苦闷，边走边哭。客人在赫达家里吃喝时，他也给驴子喂了粮草。43，在路上，他为在罪恶的所多玛城所遭遇的哭号。
Let's read the book of Jasher again. 11 In those days all the people of Sodom and Gomorrah, and of the whole 5 cities, were exceedingly wicked and sinful against the Lord, and they provoked the Lord with their abominations, and they strengthened in aging abominably and scornfully before the Lord, and their wickedness and crimes were in those days great before the Lord. 12 And they had in their land a very extensive valley, about half a day's walk, and in it there were fountains of water and a great deal of herbage surrounding the water. 13 And all the people of Sodom and Gomorrah went there 4 times in the year, with their wives and children and all belonging to them, and they rejoiced there with timbrels and dances. 14 And in the time of rejoicing they would all rise and lay hold of their neighbors' wives, and some, the virgin daughters of their neighbors, and they enjoyed them, and each man saw his wife and daughter in the hands of his neighbor and did not say a word. 15 And they did so from morning to night, and they afterward returned home each man to his house and each woman to her tent, so they always did 4 times in the year. 16 Also when a stranger came into their cities and brought goods which he had purchased with a view to dispose of there, the people of these cities would assemble, men, women and children, young and old, and go to the man and take his goods by force, giving a little to each man until there was an end to all the goods of the owner which he had brought into the land. 17 And if the owner of the goods quarreled with them, saying, What is this work which you have done to me? Then they would approach to him one by one, and each would show him the little which he took and taunt him, saying, I only took that little which thou didst give me. And when he heard this from them all, he would arise and go from them in sorrow and bitterness of soul, when they would all arise and go after him, and drive him out of the city with great noise and tumult. 18 And there was a man from the country of Elam who was leisurely going on the road, seated upon his ass, which carried a fine mantle of divers colors, and the mantle was bound with a cord upon the ass. 19 And the man was on his journey passing through the street of Sodom when the sun set in the evening, and he remained there in order to abide during the night, but no one would let him into his house. And at that time there was in Sodom a wicked and mischievous man, one skillful to do evil, and his name was Hadad. 20 And he lifted up his eyes and saw the traveler in the street of the city, and he came to him and said, Whence comest thou and whither dost thou go? 21 And the man said to him, I am traveling from Hebron to Elam where I belong, and as I passed the sunset and no one would suffer me to enter his house, though I had bread and water and also straw and provender for my ass, and am short of nothing. 22 And Hadad answered and said to him, All that thou shalt want shall be supplied by me, but in the street thou shalt not abide all night. 23 And Hadad brought him to his house, and he took off the mantle from the ass with the cord, and brought them to his house, and he gave the ass straw and provender whilst the traveler ate and drank in Hadad's house, and he abode there that night. 24 And in the morning the traveler rose up early to continue his journey, when Hadad said to him, Wait, comfort thy heart with a morsel of bread and then go. And the man did so, and he remained with him, and they both ate and drank together during the day, when the man rose up to go. 25 And Hadad said to him, Behold, now the day is declining, thou hadst better remain all night that thy heart may be comforted. And he pressed him so that he tarried there all night, and on the second day he rose up early to go away, when Hadad pressed him, saying, Comfort thy heart with a morsel of bread and then go. And he remained and ate with him also the second day, and then the man rose up to continue his journey. 26 And Hadad said to him, Behold, now the day is declining, remain with me to comfort thy heart, and in the morning rise up early and go thy way. 27 And the man would not remain, but rose and saddled his ass, and whilst he was saddling his ass the wife of Hadad said to her husband, Behold, this man has remained with us for 2 days eating and drinking, and he has given us nothing, and now shall he go away from us without giving anything? And Hadad said to her, Be silent. 28 And the man saddled his ass to go, and he asked Hadad to give him the cord and mantle to tie it upon the ass. 29 And Hadad said to him, What sayest thou? And he said to him, That thou my lord shalt give me the cord and the mantle made with divers colors, which thou didst conceal with thee in thy house, to take care of it. 30 And Hadad answered the man, saying, This is the interpretation of thy dream. The cord which thou didst see means that thy life will be lengthened out like a cord, and having seen the mantle colored with all sorts of colors, means that thou shalt have a vineyard in which thou wilt plant trees of all fruits. 31 And the traveler answered, saying, Not so, my lord, for I was awake when I gave thee the cord and also a mantle woven with different colors, which thou didst take off the ass to put them by for me. And Hadad answered and said, Surely I have told thee the interpretation of thy dream, and it is a good dream, and this is the interpretation thereof. 32 Now the sons of men give me 4 pieces of silver, which is my charge for interpreting dreams, and of thee only I require 3 pieces of silver. 33 And the man was provoked at the words of Hadad, and he cried bitterly, and he brought Hadad to Sirach judge of Sodom. 34 And the man laid his cause before Sirach the judge, when Hadad replied, saying, It is not so, but thus the matter stands. And the judge said to the traveler, This man Hadad telleth thee truth, for he is famed in the cities for the accurate interpretation of dreams. 35 And the man cried at the word of the judge, and he said, Not so, my lord, for it was in the day that I gave him the cord and mantle which was upon the ass, in order to put them by in his house. And they both disputed before the judge, the one saying, Thus the matter was, and the other declaring otherwise. 36 And Hadad said to the man, Give me 4 pieces of silver that I charge for my interpretations of dreams. I will not make any allowance, and give me the expense of the 4 meals that thou didst eat in my house. 37 And the man said to Hadad, Truly I will pay thee for what I ate in thy house, only give me the cord and mantle which thou didst conceal in thy house. 38 And Hadad replied before the judge and said to the man, Did I not tell thee the interpretation of thy dream? The cord means that thy days shall be prolonged like a cord, and the mantle, that thou wilt have a vineyard in which thou wilt plant all kinds of fruit trees. 39 This is the proper interpretation of thy dream. Now give me the 4 pieces of silver that I require as a compensation, for I will make thee no allowance. 40 And the man cried at the words of Hadad, and they both quarreled before the judge, and the judge gave orders to his servants, who drove them rashly from the house. 41 And they went away quarreling from the judge, when the people of Sodom heard them, and they gathered about them, and they exclaimed against the stranger, and they drove him rashly from the city. 42 And the man continued his journey upon his ass with bitterness of soul, lamenting and weeping. 43 And whilst he was going along he wept at what had happened to him in the corrupt city of Sodom.
却是这几个城的确作恶多端，上帝展示了末世代， 那群作恶多端的最终是怎么死的，都是被天上7块陨石砸下，永远烧死在地狱里。下回书第11部分，我们接着谈索多玛罪恶滔天的下半部分。5成恶行灭人性，罗德一女丧性命。天庭震怒派天将，硫磺灭城警示间。谢谢大家收听以诺谈天节目，希望大家顺着思绪听，我们下回见。
Interpretation: These cities have indeed committed many evils. God has shown how in the last generation, in doomsday, those who will commit many evils will die in the end of doomsday. They will be all smashed by 7 meteorites from the sky and burned to death forever in hell. Next time in part 11, we'll move on to the second half of Sodom's monstrous sin. The evil deeds of the 5 cities destroyed human nature, and the righteous daughter of Lot lost her life. The heavenly court sent the heavenly generals in anger, and the brimstone destroyed these cities to warn the world. Thank you for listening to the Enoch Talk Show. I hope you will listen to it in order, and see you next time.